Is brought to you in part by Sushi Market Sprouts on 7th in Santa Cruz and Kaito in the Capitol Mall Food Court. Treat yourself to the finest Japanese cuisine you'll find anywhere with fresh sushi to go and delicious ramen dinners. Sushi Market Sprouts and Kaito. Yum! And a good afternoon to you. This is China Uber Alice on AM 1080 KSCO Santa Cruz. I'm Bill Graff, your host. Normally on this program we would have one of the senior reporters from the Epoch Times, Nan Su, with us. He is away, so sitting in for him today is Michael Olson, who was educated on China at the University of California at Santa Cruz. We also have our regular guest, Amy Howe, who is a survivor of the re-education camps of the Chinese Cultural Revolution under Chairman Mao. And we welcome you to our program today. We have quite a lineup. We're going to talk about the 100th anniversary of the CCP in China. Well, first of all, good afternoon, Amy. How are you?
Fantastic. How are you guys?
Terrific, terrific. We'll check in with you in just a moment for your story today. I want to bring on Michael Olson. When you studied Chinese at the University of California at Santa Cruz, would you have thought you would be talking on a radio program about the 100th anniversary of the CCP in China?
Yes. I could have imagined that easily.
Yeah. Wow. It's because I can't even imagine. I think about it, and I just never thought of it in a 100-year term.
You know, when I looked at China as a young, dumb Montana boy in the U.S. Navy out in the South Pacific, I saw this magnificent nation with 8,000 years of history. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that place is one sleeping giant. And somebody's going to go poke it in the toe, and it's going to wake up.
Well,
and it did.
Yeah, guess what happened? Later on in our program today, we'll talk to Dr. Lawrence Sellin, who is an expert on COVID-19, and he's also familiar with the pharmaceutical industry. He's a colonel in the United States. Well, I was about to say retired. Anyway, United States Army Reserve, he's retired now. But he served in both Iraq and Afghanistan as a veteran.
And worked as a researcher at Fort Detrick, Maryland on virology.
There you go.
And the impact of viruses on the human organism.
Right. Before we get to any of that, we start each one of these programs with Amy Howe. As I mentioned, she was part of the Cultural Revolution in China under Chairman Mao, and Amy has unbelievable stories to tell us to start each program. Amy, you want to go ahead and give us your story for today?
Yes. Today is a special day. It's just like you said, it's 100 years anniversary for CCP, Chinese Communist Party birthday. So they had a huge celebration. Actually, it was yesterday. You know, they are 16 hours ahead of us, and in Tiananmen Square, and all the military parade, everything else, and millions those pigeons and come out of the cage and flying, and then representing. And they wanted to whole world to look at the new image of China, and CCP is not the evil. And they are the peacemakers. So today, I just wanted to, I saw so many of their propaganda and videos, everything else, and I just want to continue and to tell people little true stories. And since last week, I posted my video on Father's Day. Memories of father, and I reconnected with 4 long-lost friends. 2 of them, they are my childhood neighbors, and another 2 is a college classmate. And 4 of us girls, and now it's the same as my age now, And they all grow up without a father. Their fathers was in different CCP's movements, campaigns. They all die, suffering and die, and during those movements. So they begged me to telling their story. So I promised them after I finish my father's story, I will tell in this China Uber, the program, I will tell their story one by one. Because they request me, I told them to write about it in details. Because I know they lost their father, briefly, but I don't know the details. And so they promised to write about it. So, you cannot lie in details. My late husband is a trial lawyer. He always tell me, he said, when you in the court trials, and you always you examine and cross-examine and the people, and if they tell the truth, they cannot lie in the details. If they lie one, they have to lie all. So if you tell the details as details you can, and nobody can deny that. So I think that's the good idea. So let's go back to my father's story. He was 32 years old when communists took over in 1949. So he just believed communists were building a new country, and after Japanese occupation, and the new country will provide a free education for everybody, for every kid. So that's the idea, and make him to come back and bring back all his money to invest teaching equipment company in China. And but at the beginning, I'm talking about the CCP. They always use that kind of text, and the beginning they want your money because they cannot run the country, and they don't know how to run the country. So they need the business people come back to run the economy. Otherwise, they were paralyzed immediately. So when the things getting better, and they want to take over and your assets and everything, but the first thing they had to control you, and so they had to have this all kind of movements to make you scared and feel guilty, and then you were willingly and or forcefully and to give up everything to them. And so what they did to my father is, before I was born, that time was the Korea War was 1950 to, I think it started 1950, and then end up the beginning of the 1953. So I was born in 1952. So during this Korea War, they wanted all the businessmen to donate their money to support the army. So they wanted them to donate lots of money, so they said that they're going to buy an airplane. At that time, Chinese army has no air force. They don't have an airplane. They don't have anything. But what are you talking about buying an airplane? But if you say that to them, you buy a truck or you buy a tank, so it will be small donation. If you say buying an airplane, so everybody had to get a lot of money out, like whatever you have. So they have this kind of moment. So everybody had to get whatever they have and to give it to buy an airplane, which was a lie. They never did. And then they make lots of business to do the supply and to the army. And the good thing is my father's company, he just started. That time they don't even have a material, plastic, to make those teaching equipment. So they had to use clay, so that's the material they have, and use a clay to make the models. So they cannot ask, their company and to do anything, supply any army and use a clay. So maybe, they can ask them to make an American soldier as a plastic tiger. Probably that you can use clay. But they do ask, they make a lot of Mao's image, and Chairman Mao's statues use clay. So give it to every business, every buildings, every schools, everywhere. And so they had to do that. And but they don't have other material can supply to the army. But his friend, and he has state making the education stationery company. So like basic things like pencils, rulers. That time in China they used those old ruler was all made in bamboo. And so somehow he got some those transparent material, it's a plastic, and to make a ruler. So they said, well, you probably have more money, and so you had to make some equipment, some supply, like he said, what is it? He said a bandage and cotton ball, and then the canvas bags for the first aid bag. They don't even have any material to make other bag for the canvas. So they told him to make that in the large quantities. So he said, I don't have enough money and to buy all the materials. And they said, doesn't matter. You have to do your best. And we will make you hero. And because you are patriot, you defend our country. And so we just give you a note. And I owe you a promissory note. So I will pay you back plus interest. So you can do anything. You can borrow money and get all your funds ready, your personal and your friends and relatives. Just get all the money. So he did. And so in couple of occasions they have those meetings, those propaganda rallies, and so make him as a hero, And then, what's happening? After the war, probably 1953, they started this movement called anti-3 and anti-5, and eliminating all the anti-revolution, the bad peoples. And so he become one of them. The reason is they don't want to pay him back whatever they owed him, and so the only thing is to eliminate him, so they don't have to pay back. So that's the way they did, and they put him in jail, and saying he corrupted the communist officer, and was sent to his company, and he gave him some money or whatever it is, and so that officer confessed, and so that's the evidence, and then put him in jail, and then they have this public criticized meeting after that, and they executed him. So whatever they owe to him, it's over, right? They don't have to pay back. So they use that kind of things. Eliminate lots of people they owe the money to. Most of the people is the business people. And so fortunately, and they didn't ask me, only asked my father's company to make a Mars clay image. They didn't ask him to do anything about the bandages, the cotton balls. The other people, they say that they executed them, and the charge is they made products. They say was not bad products to the army. So make those soldiers, wounded soldiers, get injured and infected or something, that kind of thing, and end up they become a killer of the soldier. Right? So use different kind of accusations and to get rid of the people they owe the money to. So what they did to my father is a different story, but sooner or later they will get him. And I think I will talk about next time because it's kind of a long story. So basically, after the war, I think I was probably not even 1 year old in 1953, and then give him a mission and send him to Hong Kong. And before they did that, they arrested him. They say that they received two of my relatives, right, to just report him, saying is this movement, that I talk about the anti-3 and anti-5, and that kind of movement is also they had to want you to confess and all your histories, and in all the China. And before the communist took over, what kind of social relationship you have, and with Kuomintang and the government officials, or some in China they control the economy is like against mafias. What kind of relationship with them? They were protected business people, like you want to protect it. So you had to found one. So say somebody wrote a letter. My relative said that my father was have a relationship with head of security department in the Kuomintang government, and so they arrested him, and they said want him to confess. Also, they tell him. And they only need 2 witnesses, and they saw him have a gun, and they saw him have activity with this Kuomintang security department. So they will execute him. Anyway, so, but when he was in jail, and they even put out of the post and saying in such a date they will execute him, and put those red thing, the mark on his name. And so it's like a done deal. But very, very fortunately, and they didn't kill him. So why they didn't kill him? So I will tell next week.
Amy, your story, particularly when you were talking about the fact that the people were asked to do things, make products, and then the government promised to pay, and then they reneged on the promise, and the person disappeared. Sounds an awful lot to me like how the mafia operates.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's interesting you should start telling this story and how it pans out, for what we've heard so far in the first part of your story this week, is the fact that right now Chinese dissidents are concerned for families in China. As the CCP marks its 100th anniversary, they're worried that some of their family members who still are in China are going to be targets of the CCP government.
That's right, in danger.
Yeah. So
I think that they say that the security is very, very tight.
Yeah.
And also they just censor everything, every movement people, because they had this high tech, which was under the helping of the American high tech company, and to control the people there.
And one thing I heard Xi Jinping say recently was something to the effect that you may live some other place. Speaking of Chinese people, Han people, you may live some other place, but you're still part of our family. And I heard that, and it sounded like a threat.
Yeah, that was a threat.
And so we still own you. Yes. And you are ours. And I was just wondering, have you ever felt any pressure from the CCP?
Yes, definitely.
Would you describe that?
Yeah, I have some real story about that. You know, when my family moved to here, everybody out, I don't have an immediate family there. I don't have some relatives, some friends still there, distant cousins. And so my father wanted to tell his story, and somehow, I think it was 1980s, they come in 1990s, early 1990s. And one of my friends in New York, I think he knows lots of publishers, so they say that they were interested in his book. They want him to write about his book because he has a very complicated, colorful life. And they say that they want him to write his book. They say maybe they can make a TV series and better than a super opera. And so he was excited. They say, well, I'm coming to the free country. I'm going to write or whatever. But then not too long, I tell you, a person I know, I met him in San Francisco, and they have this opera house, the club, and singing Chinese opera. My brother singing Chinese opera, so I met this guy there. And then, not too long, and I read the Chinese newspaper, and also American newspaper, they say that they found out that he's a triple agent, and now is in the maximum security in United States, the jail in New York. And then, you know what happened? What? And without a trial, without anything, they say that he suicide. They found out that somebody put a plastic bag on his head.
Wow, that sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, and he's retired. I talked to this guy. He's retired, and I know he's somebody, but I think that he was happy singing the opera. He said, I have nothing to do with that. He's not politics, nothing, right? And then even in the United States, the jail, maximum security jail, and they killed him. Mm-hmm. So I told my father, I said, I don't think we should write in a book because I don't want that they put the plastic bag in your head or my head, right? So,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a harrowing story, but it's also good for us to examine that story. And others like it coming out. And when we read this article, I read this article from the Epoch Times, and it's amazing how people are being threatened.
Oh.
And their families.
And the interesting thing is, Billy, I just got blacklisted by Google.
Yeah, this is an amazing story.
So you think this is happening in China? It's happening right here in the
Michael
United
Olson's
States.
other life, he has several lives, and we're proud of all of them here at KSCO. Michael Olson, he works for the radio station, and he's part of our advertising department. He's the general manager, or emeritus, I guess is the best way to put that. And he also is an author. Michael has written a couple of books, and he has a radio program associated with one of his books. The book is called Metro Farm, and he has done a food-based radio program for
1,280 shows.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But at any rate, our latest show was titled The COVID-19 Military-Industrial Complex, and we follow the money through this military-industrial complex.
Now, prior to the issuance of this radio program, which aired last Saturday, Michael was on Google. You type in Metro Farm, and it went to the top of the list. It was a number one. Everybody knew it.
And my wife called me up this morning, and she says, "We've been blacklisted." And,
wow.
And we've been blacklisted because one of the money people we followed in the COVID military-industrial complex was Google.
Yeah, well, that'll do it to
wow.
you. So you're no longer on the search engine.
So I'm no longer on Google search.
Wow.
Just like that. So it's kind of like, oh gosh, Amy.
Wow.
I'm with you, girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's one other thing I wanted to bring up. Amy brought up I think it was the 5 rightist campaigns. Is that right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, the 5 rightist campaign was one of a whole bunch of mass movements instituted by the Chinese Communist Party as a way of taking control.
Yeah, control
of the country.
That's it. Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask Amy if, in looking around contemporary America, she sees any parallels to those mass movements. I mean, I look and I see things like critical race theory, and to me, it looks just like a mass movement. Because if you don't believe in critical race theory, you are a rightist or a capitalist roader or whatever, and you need to be dispatched.
But I hear what you're saying, but I know teachers. I come from a family of teachers, and none of the teachers that I know personally would embrace critical race theory if their life depended on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, they don't now, but the way these campaigns start, I don't know, Amy could probably really tell us a story of how they start. Somebody holds up a flag, and then other people say, I better get behind that flag. And pretty soon the whole country's smashing sparrows.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That is absolutely the example I was about to use.
Yeah. So I was just wondering if Amy, looking across our country, do you see similarities to the mass movements of the Chinese Communist Party?
Yes, definitely. And but interesting enough is American people, lots of people, they still think that, it's not going to happen to us. This is China. This is America. It's not going to happen to us. So it's, they not even pay attention for that.
Good point.
Yeah, I think we're going to get in big trouble when we bring up our next subject then.
Well, let's go ahead and embrace the next subject. COVID-19. The source of COVID-19 is, of course, now a big topic of discussion again.
And still, why not when it gets right down to it?
Because some of the information that was widely disseminated and purported to be the end-all of the administration's, various administrations, various countries' point of view was, we found it in some bats 900 miles from Wuhan.
Let me pick that story up.
Okay.
May I?
Go ahead.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are no answers forthcoming to the who, what, where, why, and when of COVID-19 pandemic. Those who know aren't saying. And they've got the answers all locked up. So that there are no answers forthcoming leaves everyone free to speculate.
Speculate's the word.
We're free because nobody's saying, so we're free to speculate. Of course, you might get banned from Google, but we're free. So there are 3 basic reasons given for the COVID-19 pandemic. One, some say it was the consequence of an act of nature.
Yes.
Right?
Bats 900 miles away from the lab.
Others say it was a leak from a scientific laboratory.
We're getting closer.
And still others say it was a deliberate act of opportunistic bioterrorism. 3 reasons. I can't think of any other reason being put forth. So there's the 3 choices that we have. Though only speculation, all of these reasons have one thing in common, which is Chunghua, China.
Yeah. There you go.
They all are focused on China. So today we were going to do some really serious speculating on these issues with Dr. Lawrence Sellin. But Thanks to my Major League boo-boo with time zones, we missed that one. But I did have a wonderful opportunity to address these issues with him, and I have his answers, and we'll present them. But you can back me up by searching for him. Dr. Lawrence Sellin, Sellin. Dr. Sellin was a research physiologist, a doctor, a researcher at the U.S. Army Research Institute of Infectious Diseases at Fort Detrick, Maryland.
That's quite a well-known facility, by the way.
Yes, and he was studying the impact of viruses on human physiology.
I think you can safely say that this lab is has the reputation of sort of being on the same par as like the Lawrence Livermore lab.
Yes, exactly.
It's very big time.
Dr. Sellin described the facility's main purpose as finding ways to survive viral pandemics for the troops when they're out in the world someplace.
Exactly, and that research has to be done.
Yeah, it has to be done. So that's what he's doing for many, many years. He's also a veteran of the Afghanistan campaign, where he commanded the Central Corps Advisory Group. He's a mucky-muck there. And he was the Chief of Staff for the Special Operations Command Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Really?
Yep. And now he is a widely published expert on U.S. security issues, one of which is COVID. And one of
the biggest.
What captured my attention about Dr. Sellin was an article that I ran across from him that said, this is the title of the article, yes, COVID-19 was a biological attack by the Chinese Communist Party. So, welcome to China Über Alles.
Yeah, really.
And incidentally, 100 years. CCP, where do you want to go now?
Oh, boy.
What is your...
what a question.
Where do you want to go now?
What a question.
Yeah.
So, when I had my conversation with Dr.
Fortunately, you're well known for doing lots of show prep. So in order to do the show prep, you actually called the guest and talked to him ahead of time.
That's right.
Okay. So we
had a wonderful conversation with him at like 4 in the morning, and it was even earlier in the morning wherever the heck he was. But it was a great conversation. So I asked him, when you were a research physiologist at Fort Detrick, working with this stuff, did you ever think we would be where we are today with this coronavirus pandemic? And interestingly enough, he said no.
Wow.
Because we were always working on defensive weapons. And this is a offensive weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So he was they were never thinking like this, according to him.
Somebody in that lab must have had the thought.
And the next question I asked, how many different kinds of viruses can be weaponized into microscopic mass murderers?
Now, here's a question I don't even want to have the answer to.
Wow.
You don't?
No, I don't, but you're going to tell me anyway.
Thousands.
Yeah, it's hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, probably.
Wow.
So, and my final question before I got to the big questions was, why has it been left up to you and other independent-minded people like you to look behind the curtain of this coronavirus pandemic? Why not the New York Times?
That's a good
question. The Washington Post, NBC, ABC, CBS. Why is it people like you who are somewhat independent, why are you looking, but what happened to our media?
Yeah.
Are we not curious anymore?
So what was the answer?
Money. These mainstream media outlets are owned and operated by very big businesses that are looking to China for their future.
There you go.
So I asked him, are you telling me that our media is no longer our media?
Mm-hmm.
And he said yes.
No longer the fifth estate.
It's no longer
the watchdogs.
They don't belong to us anymore.
Yeah. So in other words, is that they were directly or indirectly owned by
the
CCP?
Chinese. Yes,
I think the answer is still indirectly, but there's enough influence.
You don't have to own something to control it.
That's right. You can influence it.
That was the genius of Deng Xiaoping.
Yeah.
All you need to do is control it.
That's right.
That's right.
So let us address these three subjects now. Why are we in the middle of this pandemic? 3 reasons on the table. And if you can think of any other ones, I'd love to hear them. Really
money, and money.
So
multiple choice.
As Billy said, the first speculation was that COVID-19 resulted from an act of nature. Some say it was an ordinary coronavirus living deep within a bat, which lived deep within a cave, which was deep inside of China. Suddenly, that virus was transformed by an act of nature into a novel SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus that eats people alive. At which time, the poor terrified bat flew 1,000 miles to Wuhan wet market, where it landed with a splash in a bowl of soup, whereupon it was eaten by a hungry patient zero, who then stumbled out into the street, where he or she sneezed into the crowd. Well, Dr. Sellin, do you think the COVID-19 pandemic is an act of nature?
Well, I got the obvious answer. I would probably say the good doctor said no, probably not.
Well, no, definitely not.
Okay.
And he gave a reason for that. And the reason is what the heck they call it, the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus that is plaguing us, has been imbued with 2 physical characteristics never before seen in nature.
That's right. They're obviously man-made when you see them under the equipment.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what does that mean? Let's say you're walking down the street and you see a person walking his or her poodle. Nice little poodle. But the poodle has the head of a great white shark. By golly, you would look at that and you'd think, is that an act of nature? No, you wouldn't think that at all, would you?
No.
You would look at that poodle with the head of a great white shark and you go, no.
The way in the article I read about a week ago, it stated it like this: the virus looks, when you look at it under the microscopic equipment, the heavy duty, big time microscopes, the virus looks the genetic sequence is too perfect. It just doesn't happen like that in nature.
Yeah, and it has some gizmos attached to it that make it
completely identifiable as man-made.
Yeah, it's a completely unique organism, much like a poodle
with a shark's head.
And so Dr. Sellin suggested, if you look at it, it's just not natural. There is nothing like it in nature. So, and the other thing that you worry about is that there's no way to trace that coronavirus back to anything in nature. So, all of the evidence that might indicate that was the case has been locked up in the vault by Xi Jinping, who is the Batwoman of China, under orders, of course, by the Chinese Communist Party. So, what do you think out there? Do you think this coronavirus 19 is an act of nature?
I certainly don't.
So, we're going to lay these questions on the table for our audience, and we're going to see if they can help us out.
Okay.
So, number 2, an accidental release. So some say that the bat virus, without the bat, gained a function that enables it to eat people alive while hanging out at the Wuhan Virology Institute. Whereupon, a distracted graduate student picked it up off a lab beaker and carried it to an after-work meetup at a Wuhan disco, where, feeling very expansive at the moment, passed it around on complimentary shots of Baijiu to a bunch of soon-to-be typhoid Marys. So, Dr. Sellin, do you think the COVID-19 pandemic was caused by a lab leak? And Dr. Sellin said, well, that's certainly a possibility because the labs are leaking all the time.
Well, the other thing about this lab that I found very disconcerting, the name of the lab is very misleading. They call it the Wuhan Virology Institute. And the top, from what I've read, I believe to be true, is the top 2 stories of this lab are controlled by the Chinese military.
No, all of it is controlled by the Chinese military.
But that's the part where nobody else can go, the top 2 levels.
Yeah, this is one of the very interesting things Dr. Sellin points out in his writings, is how the Chinese military infuses itself into everything, including academia, and ends up in the research institutions of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Under the guise of professors, and those professors are part of the People's Liberation Army.
Did you ever see the movie The Hunt for Red October?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The opening scene of that movie, the captain of the ship, played by Sean Connery, gets on the boat. They leave the shipyard. It's a brand new type of submarine. They leave, and the political officer from the Soviet Union comes down, and he tries to get the captain to do something. The captain doesn't agree with something about the orders. And the next thing you know, the political officer is laying dead in the captain's office because the captain just did him in.
Yeah. Well, that's what made the Hunt for Red October interesting.
Yeah.
Right. But look, the point being, there are probably political officers somewhere in that lab.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
They're everywhere. The CCP is everywhere. It owns everything. And if it doesn't own it,
it controls it. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Dr. Sellin pointed out that there are a bunch of these gain-of-function laboratories everywhere. But the final thing, number 3, an act of opportunistic bioterrorism. Still others say it was a carefully planned militaristic operation of opportunistic bioterrorism carried out by a special army unit with the express purpose of destroying the American economy and getting rid of that mean old President Donald J. Trump. To do so, the unit misted the world's biggest potluck dinner with the man-eating COVID-19 virus, closed Wuhan's domestic air terminal, and opened its international terminal, then, after achieving its core mission, sat back in total denial. Dr. Sellin, what do you think, Dr. Sellin?
Yeah.
And he said something very interesting. It doesn't matter whether it was a lab leak or a deliberate release, because it is, no matter how you look at it, opportunistic bioterrorism. Because whether it was an accident or not, the Chinese Communist Party took advantage of it. And they milked the incident for everything they could get, including the disposal of Donald J. Trump, the destruction of the American economy, and essentially taking over the world. And now look how they are strutting around Tiananmen Square. Yeah.
I have a picture of it. I'm showing Michael Olson. This is from the Epoch Times. It's a picture of two guards literally strutting around Tiananmen Square.
But remember the description Amy gave?
Yes.
Of what she saw in Tiananmen
Amy's
Square?
stories always come back around to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And sometimes it fits so well into the puzzle of the show that I almost think sometimes it's an accident.
Yeah.
It's that good.
Well, or serendipity, you know.
I'm serious though, Amy. Your stories start out and you start out. Well, I have now.
You know what it is? It's the story of contemporary China.
Yeah.
Yeah, history repeats.
See, that's exactly correct.
And CCP, they were, lots of things they do is they have as a pattern. They just do again in different times.
Yep. Mass movement after mass movement after mass. So, Billy, are we going to open up our phone line?
Yes, we are. In fact, ask
our audience to help us figure out which of these three.
What do you think? 479-1080, 479-1080. We already have a caller. Mike is calling us from Prunedale. Mike, you're on China Uber Alice. What do you think about what we've been talking about?
First of all, if I could say this, hey, you guys, you're giving a very, very informative program, one of the best in a long time. You guys know what you're talking about. You're not spewing rhetoric. I just want to thank you. And Mr. Olson and the other guy that I hear all the time, I think you guys are underrated. So thanks for
wait a minute. Who's underrating me anyway?
Google.
Google disrated me.
Yeah, I just think you guys' program, both of your guys' program is so good, you should do a lot more. So that's, but anyway, I've always thought if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. This is no coincidence that this happened when the first time ever an American president pretty much had China on the ropes, at least standing up to them. Okay, and now my concern is I try to give due credit when it's deserved, even though I did not vote for Biden. I'm grateful he's let an investigation go forward.
Yes.
At least we'll have to continue looking into it. But my question is, if we find out the truth, which we kind of know the truth, do you think he's going to shut it down? Do you think he's going to allow us to go more forward and play hardball, or he's just going to brush it under a rug and, close it up?
I believe he's going to brush it under a rug and not do anything.
And see, I disagree with Michael. I think he is. Here's what I think. I think the advisors, when all presidents get elected to be president, when they, the moment after they take the oath, they take them down to the bunker and they tell them where the monkey put the peanut. You know what I mean? They tell them the truth. And I think that shortly after Biden was told the truth, he realized that we need to do something about China. I really believe that. Even though he had all that previous other activity and his son had all that other activity with China.
Really?
I believe he now thinks that we need to take action.
I believe that the CCP gave President Joe Biden and his son $1.5 billion in 2013. And I believe that they own President Joe Biden. I hope you're right and I'm wrong.
I think it's entirely possible that we're both right. Honest to God, I do. I think he took. Sure. I think he took the money. If they gave it to him, if they offered him that kind of money, he took it. But when he became president of the United States, he's not going to let them get away with attacking the United States economy. And I think that's what their attempt was.
Done.
Really?
I think it's been done.
Oh, it's been done. There's no question about it.
They did it, and there's nothing being done about it.
Well, okay. Look, I understand your point of view, and I understand. Look, the caller made a great, asked a great question, but I still believe we have the country that when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, we went, you know
Well,
what?
I'm really hoping you're right, Billy. I hope you're right.
I think we're still the company that turns car factories into airplane factories, and we're still the country that can crank out a destroyer every 21 days. You know, I think if we have to fight back, we will. And I just, in my heart of hearts, I'm still hoping that our American government is protecting us.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right,
Yeah.
but I don't believe you're right.
Okay, well, look, that's why we're American. That's why
we're here.
That's why we're still here.
That's why I'm no longer on Google.
Well, that's right. That's right. Look, we can all kind of laugh about it. Someday you'll probably go back on Google, but the point is, we live in a place that we have to defend. We're to the point now where we have to defend ourselves. We're being pushed in the corner, just like, we're being pushed slowly in the corner right now.
I don't think slowly at all.
Well, no. As compared to being bombed like we were, I mean, the day after, December 8th, 1941.
I think we're being bombed by different kinds of bombs.
So, Billy, I think he is so naive. They don't have to. They don't have to bomb anymore. They only buy.
That's right. You're absolutely correct. No, I'm not naive. I understand what you're saying, but look, I have to. It's my nature to try to be as positive as possible. I just don't, in my heart of hearts, think China can get away with it. I still don't believe it.
Can I open the next hour with my big question that I asked Dr. Lawrence Sellin?
Yes.
That he couldn't answer.
Oh, my God.
He went silent.
You know what?
Wow.
We have gone so far that I have to play the... Not enough time? You're saying not enough time?
Yeah.
My engineer's going, take a break. I only designed the equipment, and I still can't take the break on time. We'll be right back.
Satisfy your hunger right now with the delicious ramen and sushi you'll find waiting for you at Kaito. Easy in and out location in the Capitola Mall food court. Special orders welcome. Fresh, delicious, and oh so good.
This is Koji. I'm looking forward to seeing you at my restaurant, Kaito.
Hi, this is Joe Cordell at the law firm Cordell & Cordell. When the prospect of divorce becomes a reality, you need a partner that you can count on. If you're a man in this situation, consider contacting Cordell & Cordell. We've helped men navigate complex legal matters for 30 years.
Contact Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's California attorneys. Online at CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com. 1455 Frazee Road, Suite 500, San Diego, California, 92108.
In a world where seawater intrusion threatens the Pajaro Valley as we know it, recycled water is critical. Only one agency has what it takes to protect our way of life and our billion-dollar economy. They have a facility that produces 1 billion gallons of recycled water each and every year. They're teaming up with growers before it's too late. PV Water, helping to preserve a field near you. This time, it's agricultural.
Learn more at pvwater.org.
Hi,
I'm Jim Chubb with Pacific Inland. Our NMLS 361091. If you're interested in buying or refinancing, I suggest you take advantage of my reliable expert advice. I'm at 818-7700. I help you make informed mortgage choices with zero selling. See my Sunday column in the Sentinel. We have a 30-year fixed at 3.375 APR with no closing costs. Some restrictions apply. Call me. 818-7700 for individual pricing. That's 818-7700.
this is KSCO Santa Cruz.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm
KSCO News Talk time is 3:05. I'm Sam Quinton with your King of the Hill traffic and weather. Highway 17 up and over the summit, that is accident-free. Moving at the limit, Highway 9 is clear. Here we get into a little trouble. Highway 1 southbound coming off the Fish Hook all the way through Bay Avenue. That's about a 17-minute delay to get through there, you betcha. And the other really big build-up here is southbound 101, mostly between South Coyote and Morgan Hill. They're talking about a 16-minute difference at this time, or 16-minute delay, excuse me. Elsewhere, 156 eastbound San Juan Bautista, you're going to find about a 6-minute delay coming out of there. And Highway 1 southbound, heading into Moss Landing, you're going to find some slow-and-go patches there as well. Your Central Coast forecast for tonight, slight chance of drizzle with patchy fog in the morning. Looking for an overnight low of 56 degrees. Tomorrow, we're just going to start off with some drizzle and patchy fog, and then mostly sunny skies in the afternoon. That's if you live inland. If you're going to be on the coast, most likely it's going to remain marine layer all day long. Looking for a high tomorrow of 71 degrees. Well, we made it right now outside the KSCO studios. It is currently 72 degrees. That's what we are shooting for. KSCO News Talk time now, 3:07. Time for the second hour of China Uber Alice on KSCO.
China Uber Alice is brought to you in part by Sushi Market Sprouts on 7th in Santa Cruz and Kaito in the Capitola Mall Food Court. Treat yourself to the finest Japanese cuisine you'll find anywhere with fresh sushi to go and delicious ramen dinners. Sushi Market Sprouts and Kaito. Yum!
Welcome back to hour number 2 of China Uber Alice on AM 1080 KSCO. I'm Bill Graff along with Amy Howe and today Michael Olson. Nansu, our reporter from the Epoch Times, is enjoying a well-deserved vacation on some tropical island somewhere. Before we get into the second hour and take your calls at 479-1080, we allow Michael to come and help us when we really need it because he's a very learned person when it comes to China. But in return, we want to give him the opportunity to try to bail himself out of Google's being banned.
Well, Billy, as I was saying earlier, I've been banned by Google. I was notified of the fact today by my wife. She says, what did you do? Well, what I did was ask questions on my Food Chain radio program. We are on that program Saturday 9 to 10, following the money through the COVID military-industrial complex. If you really want to understand what's happening to us, follow the money.
Yep.
And so my lead question for that show was, did the University of California fund the development of COVID-19?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you might get banned from something else.
Yeah.
They might come and take my degree back. So
69 degree, right?
So if you tune into that show and follow the money with us, you will see that it's a very legitimate question. Did the University of California fund the development of the COVID-19 coronavirus?
See, now I'm going to tune in and listen again.
Yeah.
So now, with respect to questions which can get you into trouble, just ask Socrates, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Socrates. But I asked Dr. Lawrence Sellin a question very early in the morning that's been plaguing me, and I've been asking everybody. I asked you, Billy. I asked everybody this question, and nobody has been able to give me an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is that I asked Dr. Sellin early in the morning. Here's a guy that knows everything about this story. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, Dr. Sellin, can you give me one good reason why the Chinese Communist Party would not have deliberately released the coronavirus?
I remember my answer to this question, actually.
You know what Dr. Sellin's answer was? Silence.
Wow.
Didn't say anything.
And after, forever on the phone of silence, he said, it's in their plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's in their plan.
Wow.
Wow.
For world domination, right?
Yeah.
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 Well, I remember my answer to your question was, and your answer made me think about it. I said, well, it would harm their own people if it got out. First and foremost, if they leaked it or it somehow got out as an accident, it would. The reason they wouldn't do it is because it would harm their own people first. And then I got the answer from Amy and you and Nansu, all off the air, told me basically the same thing. You said that for the communist CCP government, that's not a problem.
Well, if you think about how many people have lost their lives to the CCP.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. It really isn't a problem.
So last 100 years, this is 100 years anniversary for CCP. So Michael Olson, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What is the Satan does? And we call CCP evil, devil worshiper Satan. So what does Satan do?
What does who do? Sellin?
Satan. You say that we say CCP is the evil, and the devil. So devil worshiper Satan. So what does Satan does? I don't know. What are they supposed to do?
Well, what is going to save us?
Satan. The evil and the devil and the Satan. The devil worships Satan, right?
Devil worships Satan.
Yeah, we call CCP devil, evil, devil, and so what does Satan do?
Yeah, who does Satan worship?
Who does Satan?
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, there we go. We're back to we don't know.
We don't know.
We do
and
have some
that's
callers.
what we're doing today is we're asking questions
Right.
that we do not have the answer for.
True.
One of the questions was, do you folks out there think it was an act of nature? Do you think the COVID-19 coronavirus was an act of nature? In spite of the fact that it looks like a poodle with a shark's head, you still think it's an act of nature? Or was it a leak from a laboratory? Now, when I asked Dr. Sellin if he thought it was a leak, he says, I don't like the word leak.
Yeah.
I don't like that word at all.
I will say this, according to most of the...
He said, I like the word release. So was it a deliberate release or an accidental release? But he doesn't like the word leak. He likes it.
Leak is like an accident.
Yeah.
Right? A
release is sort of deliberate. We open the valve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your release.
And then the final thing, of course, was it a deliberate act of bioterrorism?
Yeah.
Was it an attack on the United States and the world?
Yeah.
And the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, we have a bunch of callers, the first of which, who's been hanging on slightly the longest. That would be Gary in Live Oak, if I push the right button here. Gary, you're on China Uber Alice. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, just to let you know where I'm coming from, I was trained in armored reconnaissance, and the lesson I got very early as we were trooping among the hills and the valleys and so forth, we had our eyes on the horizon. And what happened was people that were only 10 or 15 feet in front of us would jump up out of the bushes and get us point blank. And I think that's part of what's happening here. You look at the communist Red Chinese activity and the imposition of this so-called accident. It's no more an accident than the Manhattan Project, which was, this was built into a gain of function. There's over 248 Chinese communist countries that are listed on the stock exchange, the U.S., the major exchanges, and they have partners such as Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Chase, Stanley, Citigroup, our Bank of America,
all of them, Gary.
People.
All of them. All of them. It's not some of them. Did you hear what the head of Nike said the other day? Nike is a Chinese company. We are all for China.
Absolutely. And we have, there's a book here that was written in 1961, and it's called California Dynasty of Communism. And in those pages is the name of Hugh DeLacy, a Chinese communist espionage agent that has 2 monuments dedicated to him. He received military and policy information from Leon Panetta. You're looking at Biden in the Wall Street Journal, April 23rd, 1992, How I Learned to Love the New World Order. And he calls for getting rid of our national military and to build a multilateral response. He's all into the world government. Biden is a member of the Bilderberger Society. His son, Hunter, dealt with Kerry's, foster child in
they're in business together.
So, Gary, what you're saying basically is that something we've said before on this program is if we want to know about something, we need to follow the trail of money.
Right. Well, look at the people that are in charge of everything that happens in the county concerning COVID. And that was Margaret Lopez. She was funded by the Community Foundation of Santa Cruz. They have a Hugh DeLacy Social Justice Foundation. You can't get somebody that's more evil or more pro-communist Red Chinese, and she was not put in position. She was an elected position, but she was one that was able to call out which businesses stay, where people go, the lockdowns, everything else. And she's ex-vice president of Permanente. Also on the board of directors is the county administrative officer, Carlos Palacios.
Gary,
You've got people on the board.
Gary,
yes.
You are so good with this. You should do a show. You could pick this thread and carry it for 10 hours in a row.
Yeah, you could.
You know that. But listen, so we can get on to the next callers. What do you think it was? Do you think it was an accident of nature?
Of the three
a release from a laboratory? Or do you think it was a deliberate attack on us and the world?
It's us and the world. And they're the big multinationals, the Bilderbergers, the Club of Rome. They have adopted what's called the Georgia Guidestones, which is to reduce the world population by some 600 billion people. And they've got multiple plans. You've got the COVID specifically named in the Rockefeller lockstep of 2010, and I'm sure your hosts are familiar with that. So I'll let you go, but I got lots to say, and there's so much proof here that it should be more interesting than the hottest thing on Netflix,
you know what?
But it has to deal with our lives.
Hey, Gary, before you leave, a yes or no to this question. Do you think this COVID story will grow into the biggest story of the millennium?
That's a good question.
It should be, because this is actually war. This is the Third World War. What's happening now is, and you see the wet works too. You see the assassinations and people dying in prison and
on and on.
It goes on and on.
Thank you, Gary.
Gary, thanks for the call. We appreciate it, and we appreciate all the information you've given us too. Wow. This thing is lit up like a Christmas tree. Let's go to our next longest caller. That would be Mary in Watsonville. Mary, you're on China Uber Alice.
Oh, hello. I'd like to talk to Mr. Olsen. Well, okay, he can hear me, no?
Well, he would like to talk with you.
Okay, please. I love that man.
He's here.
Okay, Mr. Olsen, I just saw in the news today that the GOP was doing a hearing on China COVID-19 to find out what happened, what the virus started over there. Well, the Democrat and Dr. Fauci didn't go to the hearing, only the GOP. So what Billy had to say about that, because he thinks Biden is going to do something about it, but he's killing himself.
Well, you know, Mary, the very interesting thing to even the most casual of observers of what's going on in Washington, D.C., is that you will see that this whole thing is becoming very, very politicized and divisive, in which one side is all for finding out what happened and the other side is not. Now, if you really want to see why Fauci is not showing up at this meeting, I suggest you tune into the Food Chain radio program Saturday at 9 and listen as we follow the money. And you will see who the real Dr. Fauci is.
He's no good. That's all I have to say. I don't like him. But anyway, I always listen to you at 9 o'clock, except maybe one weekend I'm not home. But Saturday, I will be listening to you for sure.
Well, I will be happy to have you in the audience. Thank you.
Mary, thanks for the call. We appreciate you joining us today.
You do. You're the best. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I want to, well, I don't know how to put this. I want to ask Amy, before we go to our next call, to answer the question. Because I haven't heard Amy come straight out and say she believes one of these three theories. Where are you on this, Amy?
I believe definitely is a bio-warfare Chinese they're doing for years. Just how this happened, maybe I think at the beginning I already heard a lot of things, lots of indications. They want to use that to stop the protesting in Hong Kong.
See, I thought about that myself.
And they did.
Yeah.
They did. And then go on the whole world. Mm-hmm. So they can stop much more.
Yep.
Stop the economy. Stop everything. Stop the war. We have a trade war with them.
What a good test, huh? Hong Kong would be a good test of how to slow an economy down.
Yeah, that's the beginning. They don't know what to do. So
that's why they call
that idea.
That's why they call it opportunistic bioterrorism.
Yes. Now you're talking. Actually, ABC, multiple choice. That's C.
C. Okay, well, okay, good. Now, sounds like we all sort of are thinking the same way.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk to Shane in Melbourne, Australia. I got to push the right button here. I will push the wrong one.
Oh, Australia.
Australia. Do I have Melbourne?
Yeah, g'day, fellas.
There we go. How you doing?
Oh, thanks for taking my call, and I love your programs and the way you think. You're actually in Australia. You can't, majority of people are dumbed down. They're not really thinking at your level.
Well, we appreciate the call, sir. What do you think about our question today? Do you think this whole thing was an act of bio-warfare?
Well, look, I've talked about this before. I've been a behaviouralist looking at the generational social psychological conditioning of the Australian social system by a foreign interest. Because my forefathers were Australians who built this country and fought in wars and were allies with you guys fighting against threats to our countries. And we've got both serious threats in our countries. And I'd like to just draw your attention, because I look at things through a modern Pavlovian, which is, as you know, through the subconscious processes of our consciousness trying to get through problems. And you're constantly doing it. But look, I just want to draw your attention back to your last great president that I believe was the true patriot of all your presidents that was shot. He did a speech, and he started the speech by, "Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society." Do you remember that speech?
Yes, I do, actually.
And he goes on in that speech to say that he is after the hidden government that is controlling certain parts of your country. They definitely have raped our country of all our resources and put us in huge debt and conditioned a lot of generations with addictions that are abhorrent to my forefathers. But he was saying, and that's one thing you've missed, fellas, there is, unless he was nuts, and I don't think he is because I'd be nuts too, there is a hidden government that you're not addressing, and that hidden government probably controls China. It controls a big part of your country, probably nearly all of it now, and Australia's gone, and England's probably gone. So since your great president was shot and the real patriots of your country dropped the ball, we've been in deep trouble because they've consolidated their system. In 2017, just for an example, fellas, 1.25 billion tonnes, that is, of coal was just taken to China to arm them up, to create their incredible force. And, you've got to say, well, that was really intelligent, wasn't it?
Well, we've been doing that for a while. May I comment on something you said, Sean, about how we somehow are bringing something up that most people aren't bringing up, which is the impact of China on our culture right now. And I think there's a very interesting reason why this show is doing that, and that is the serendipity that brought together
they and them. I think it's an invitation for demon possession.
We all have a intimate connection to this story, and most people have no connection to this story because China is buying America in a way that they never appear. You never see them.
True.
And so the media that they control don't own it, but they do control it. Will never point out.
No, never show it.
They never show it. So the only way you get a hint is by finding people like Dr. Lawrence Sellin, who are independents, and get booted off of Google. Shane, thanks for the call.
We appreciate the call. Thank you all the way from Australia. We got a full board. I'm going to try to move on here if I can. Let's see here. Nordic Dave looks like he's been on the longest, and Nordic Dave is on line 5. Nordic Dave, you're on KSCO.
Hey, good afternoon. That caller from Australia was awesome. I hope he calls back sometime. The behavioralist was interesting to hear from that perspective. You guys, great show, and I love this program. I wanted to just react to the comment that was made of in China that they would release the virus even if it would hurt their own people, and I would draw back to the late 40s and the early 50s when China was working on the atomic bomb. They were getting, as I understood it, they were getting help from the Russians in partnership.
That's true.
To build the bomb, and at one point. Khrushchev was talking to Mao, and Mao was talking about actually using the bomb. And Khrushchev said, well, you realize that millions of your people will die, tens of millions of your people would die. And Mao turned to Khrushchev and said, we can afford the losses.
Well, there you go.
And it scared Khrushchev so much that they started feeding them false data. So that the reactor wouldn't go critical.
And that was probably the beginning of the end between the relationship between Mao and Khrushchev. That and the Korean War,
Yeah.
It was. It absolutely was. It absolutely, yes. What I found interesting was that they struggled for a while on trying to get the reactor to go critical. And then one of the spies who was involved in the Manhattan Project, who we didn't realize for a long time, and he was over at the Los Alamos lab, I think it was Klaus Fuchs, who's a communist, realized what was happening in China and traveled to China and then helped them correct the data to get their reactor to go critical so they could be on the path towards getting the bomb. But I just thought it was interesting, the idea of that they wouldn't try this on their own people. It's like, gosh, I think they've demonstrated in the past that their own people are just pawns.
Somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 million pawns lost their lives to the CCP since 1949.
In various ways.
Yeah, the Korea War, million soldiers they sacrificed.
1 million soldiers, you said, Amy?
Korea War.
Yeah. Million soldiers in
Korea.
Korea.
They don't care about the people's life. They don't. Just the most they can ignore that.
In fact, a friend of mine was a former military strategist. He said he called the Chinese invasion into North Korea. He said it was a human blitzkrieg.
Yeah,
that's right.
They didn't mind using human beings in the same fashion.
That's a good description. Dave, thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
Keep up the good work, guys. Nice.
Get to the point. Thank you.
All right, let's talk to Joe in Santa Cruz. You're on KSCO and China Uber Alice. What happened?
Hey, Joe.
Well, let's try it again.
Hello?
Joe, you there?
Yeah, I'm finally here.
Okay.
Whether COVID-19 came out of the wet markets in China or purposely or accidentally released from the labs, the Chinese government is responsible. How many times has a virus supposedly come out of the wet markets and infected people in other countries? With the snap of their fingers, they could have told those wet markets either to shut them down or you must wear gloves and face protection and don't pile your animals up so they can defecate on each other. Okay, they could have. I think they keep those wet markets around because that's a viable excuse in case they accidentally or purposely release something. Say, oh, it was the wet market. Sorry. So no matter what, as of right now, the Chinese government is responsible.
Of course.
That's a very good point, Joe.
It's up to us Americans. We don't wait for the government, okay? Because like some of you said, Biden. Okay, that's good. Biden's further investigation, but what's he going to do about it if we do get more evidence? What are you going to do? So it's up to us Americans to start the ball. I mean, Trump started the ball rolling when he did those tariffs, and there's some American companies who moved out of China. Okay, now it's up to us American consumers.
And that's why Trump got dumped. The Democrat Party did not beat Donald Trump. The Chinese Communist Party and those they control here in the United States got rid of Donald Trump. And I'm looking at Mike Bloomberg, people like that, who invested $100 billion into the Biden campaign. For why? Now, if you were to Google Mike Bloomberg and plus China, you would see that he has been developing a huge relationship in China, and he sees China as his future. America is his past. And that's...
My point is, us Americans need to keep the ball rolling, and I know it's a challenge to buy products, just like Billy and you all said last week, from other countries. We can find it. We just have to do the effort. I know it's hard, but we can start the ball rolling. And once these manufacturers get it in their stinking head, hey, you know, we don't want to manufacture in China anymore, then they'll change. So it's up to us. So let's make an effort to buy from any other country, like you people said last time. Vietnam, Sri Lanka, India.
Joe, thank you for reiterating my point from the last show we did, because I really believe that's the way we can slow it down at least.
No. It's the only way.
Yeah. Vote with your wallet.
It's our only hope.
Yeah.
Of not being subsumed by the Chinese Communist Party is to stop buying made in China.
Yeah.
That's it.
Let's do it.
Joe, thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
All right, let's move on to Rory. Rory, I don't know where Rory is today, but he's on the radio with us now.
Maybe.
Rory, you there? Wow, he's punched up, but he's not there. Oh,
are you sure you punched the right button?
I am. I'm positive. Rory, are you there? Okay, well, let's see if we can put Rory back on hold. We can't put Rory back on hold. It won't do it. Okay, that's interesting. Let's...
Rory, call in again because we love hearing from Rory.
Rory knows what he's talking about most of the time, so let's talk to Tammy. Tammy, you're on KSCO.
Hi. I want to tell you guys I'm one of your biggest fans, and every time I go out and about, I may have a little more time on my hands than a lot of people at the moment, but I am always promoting your show and this station, and I feel like it's priceless to me, and I feel like I won the lottery, and I can't tell you how impeccably insightful and how much I've learned from you. And sometimes I'm trying to get out of the house and I can't leave because I love this show so much.
You know, I've been guilty of that too.
I make little flyers that say "Practice our freedom of speech," and I need to get them printed. I was thinking I wanted to make a China Über Alles sticker, so that because I'm always just talking to people and telling them, please watch the show or listen and tune into this show.
You know, you've given me a great idea.
Yeah, me too.
When I heard you say that,
I was thinking about making my own sweatshirt too that says China Über Alles, just so because sometimes when I'm giving people my little flyers, you know, some people are I've gotten it down to an art. I'm getting it there. I'm developing and I'm growing, and I know that when we get out and when we talk to people, I know everybody's busy, but the ability for us to make sure that we are communicating, that we are looking in people's eyes and speaking our truth and practicing our freedom of speech. There is nothing else like it. We cannot allow another election to be stolen, and we have to get out and we have to fight for a book. I can tell you a book. I want to hear your idea, and I don't want to just talk over you. Please forgive me for that. But I need to tell you, there's a book that was written in 2007 by Naomi Wolf. It's called The End of America, A Letter of Warning to a Young Patriot. It is incredible read. It's not a very long book. It's called The End of America, A Letter of Warning to a Young Patriot by Naomi Wolf, and it's a very vivid dialogue of what happened before World War II.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And how slowly it seeps in, right in front of your eyes. You don't even see it.
So the idea you gave me, having been banned by Google today, is to get a T-shirt that says, "I've been banned by Google." I love it.
Excellent idea, I think.
And then we could put China Über Alles on the back.
There you go. Terrific. Who knows? Yes. It might be. We might.
Well, I don't think China Über Alles has been banned yet.
Well, no, but I bet.
But you're working
on
it.
No, but I'm saying it's a way you could put that on the front, and then put China Über Alles on the back.
Yeah.
Practice your freedom of speech. China Über Alles.
May we steal your idea?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I just want to make sure we
have to say practice our freedom of speech. China Über Alles. Thursday, Sunday, 2 to 4 p.m.
All right. Oh, wow. Hey,
I've been thinking about the design for a couple of months now. Hoping.
Tammy, answer our question for us, okay? Because I'm dying to know what you think. Answer our question. How do you think the virus came to us? Was it?
I can tell you, you don't have time to keep me on long enough. I had a dream in 2014. I know this sounds a little wacky, but I had 3 dreams of the future in 2014. And one of them was me walking into this club, and there was this interesting, like, roulette circular thing. It was this high-end sexy, kind of ultra futuristic nightclub. And it had this waiting area. You walk in, you sit on the circle, and you shapeshift, and then you go into this club. And I don't want to tune anybody out with my imagination. It was a lucid dream. It was a very imaginative, lucid dream. I walked in the nightclub. There's people wall to wall. It was absolutely humongous. And I'm walking, trying not to bump into people, and I feel someone's eyes on me, and I look behind me, and I'm like, nobody's watching me. And then I said, yeah, somebody. I looked behind me again, and somebody's eyes were locked into mine, and they're carrying a needle in their hand, a syringe, pumping it like you see in the hospital, in a movie. The stuff's coming out this top, and I went, whoa, and I started trying to get my way through this crowd, right? And I'm trying not to knock people's drinks over, and I go into the very back, and I get out the other side into the storage area, and I woke up from my dream. And I thought about that a couple of months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. I went, whoa.
COVID.
I mean, that's really interesting, isn't it?
Thank you for the call.
So my personal perspective, my personal gut instinct is that and it's like when your algebra teacher, you turn your homework in 7th grade, and she says you got an F because you didn't show your work. But my gut instinct is what we have to rely on, our instincts, and I know that
deliberate or not,
that virus was definitely entered into our society on purpose. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your opinion and your call, Tammy. We appreciate it. Wow, that was a long roundabout answer
but she got there.
She got there. All right, let's see who Rory on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I get it right, Rory. This time, can we hear you?
Hey. Yeah, thank you. I had a work call. I'm sorry I had to bail on you.
That's okay.
Yeah, I believe that this thing I now believe that this was done on purpose, bioweapon. Forget how the Chinese Communist Party, they don't care how many, their citizens of China they kill. Hell, they've aborted 400 million since the whole one-child policy. So listen to this. Public Health, England, Technical Briefing 17. The data on over 60,000 diagnosed COVID infections of the Delta variant is clear. In 7,235 vaxxed people who were diagnosed with the Delta variant, 50 died. In 53,822 unvaxxed diagnosed with the Delta variant, only 44 died. So the infection fatality rate of the vax is 8 times as high as the unvaxxed. Okay? Read that. It's 8 times as many. So if you're vaccinated with these mRNA shots and you get the Delta variant, and that's called a breakthrough infection, your chance of dying from it is 8 times higher than if you weren't vaccinated. That's English data. It's called the Public Health England Technical Briefing 17.
Rory.
I found that after an article. So, wake the hell up, everybody. This is biowarfare at its finest.
Oh, do you think it's an act of bioterrorism? COVID?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, what we need to do, the U.S. government needs to cut Chinese companies out of our capital markets, delist them off the NASDAQ and the other stock exchanges, and kick them the hell out. Absolutely. We need to make these bastards pay. That's what I do.
Thank you, Rory.
I don't want to see a kinetic war.
Your phone is really the worst I've ever heard it.
I'm sorry. I just stepped out of my truck.
Okay.
I think we don't want a kinetic war with the CCP. Okay? A lot of people will die. Okay? But we need to bring to bear the levers and the tools that we have. Cut them off from the U.S. capital markets. Kick them off of the U.S. stock exchanges. Those 248 companies that Gary talked about, delist them. Send them packing.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Bye. Boy, I've never heard. I've been talking to Rory on the radio for years, and I've never heard a phone call out from him that bad. That was just the worst. Bad connection.
You think that they banned him?
Say that again?
I don't know what kind of the carrier for. You think that they know what he's talking about? They're banned by the Google?
Oh, anything? Yeah, you think Google got Rory too?
Maybe T-Mobile. Maybe
there you go.
AT&T.
Entirely possible.
Who knows?
Maybe that's what happened. Maybe Google banned Rory, and that's why his phone call was so bad.
All right, let's check in with Steve in Santa Cruz. Steve, you're on KSCO.
Hey, guys. Great show. For me, buying American stuff, it's like I need a special app for it or something, and the only thing I've ever found was wecultivate.us, and that's a website where I guess they try and aggregate a bunch of data from U.S. sellers, but I don't know if you guys have any apps or websites that people can go to buy just American-made stuff.
You know what? It's kind of like buying local food. Buying local food takes a lot of work because you have to find where it's sold.
Right.
You have to go to a farmer's market. You have to go to a grocery store that specializes in local food. You have to learn who the farmers are. It takes work.
Right.
But you know what? If the bleep hits the fan...
Yeah, we're all going to be doing that anyway. Steve, that's a good idea, though, and I appreciate you calling with that piece of information because we really should begin as good Americans to try to, locate the source of what we buy. That's a very good idea that a lot of folks don't think about.
I mean, it's hard for me, if you want to buy an American phone, I don't know where you could buy an American phone. I don't think it's a thing to buy a smartphone made in America. And I'm glad you guys are bringing this to the airwaves. I just want to say thank you.
So, answer the question.
Yes, Steve, what do you think? How did the COVID-19 virus come to us?
Oh, man. It seems like it could be both ways, but I honestly have no idea. I guess I'm leaning more towards biological warfare, but that seems so insane that I can't believe that somebody would release that.
Can you give us a reason why the CCP would not do that? Why would they not deliberately release that virus? Can you think of any
viruses mutate? Because viruses mutate, and why would you release something that, if it keeps mutating, unless you have like some ultimate off switch, it just kind of seems crazy to release something that could keep mutating and that you can't even control.
But what if you don't need to control it? What if you're not afraid of losing 25% of your population?
Your population? Well, it's not the population that I think it's more of like yourself. Like if it comes into your life, how do you? I mean, unless you live in such an ultimate bubble that you can keep it out, but it just seems. I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know.
Okay, well, no, you know what? That's a good, valid answer, Steve.
It really is the only answer, but it gets right down to it.
Steve, thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Good call.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Let's check in with Ray in Watsonville. Ray, you're on China Uber Alice. If I push the right button. I didn't push the right button. There's the right button. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon. How are you?
We're terrific. How about you?
Not so bad. A couple things I want to point out about this coronavirus. I myself, and I do a lot of research, but I myself knew prior to 2014 or 2014 that for some reason or another we gave China a bunch of money to upgrade their lab. Now, when I read this thing, I just came across it. This was a long time ago, so the virus wasn't out yet, and I didn't really know a whole lot. But when this virus hit, it brought my mind back to this thing that I had read online, that we gave that lab a bunch of money to upgrade that lab to make it safe, because we had already done, we already secured our labs in the United States, and China did not feel like their labs were secure. Well, the reason why that stuck in my mind was because what would we be doing upgrading China's lab? What would be the purpose? Then
well, there you go. You want to learn the answer to that? Are you really interested in finding out the reason to that question, you have to follow the money.
Oh, absolutely. That's number one.
Do you know that?
The other thing, then when this gain of function stuff started to surface around 2014, we started funding that gain of research with China.
That's true.
And it came to my mind again. What are we doing involved with China, who doesn't really like us very much, that wants to take us over anyway, and that's been their mission for years? Why are we engaged with China in this type of research? Now, Trump comes into office, coming full circle, Trump comes into office with the mission that he's had all along. He's going to go after China and put them back, knock them off their pedestal and get America back. Obviously, China didn't like that, so Trump put a whole bunch of tariffs and just really started hitting China really hard in the wallet. And if you recall, about that time, China's economy really wasn't starting to look too good. So they were starting to really feel the pressure, from these tariffs that Trump was putting on them. Now, here's the thing that got me the biggest. When we found out about this virus, we found out, I think it was February or March. When I first turned on the TV, the first thing that I seen was everybody in China in suits, white suits, pressure washers whatever they use to kill the germ, whatever, spraying everything down. These guys were in masks. These guys were in full hazard gear. These guys, everybody, when this virus hit us, they were prepared. Not only were they prepared with all the spray equipment and everything, they were already fully engaged, washing down their country. And we were just finding out about it and blindsided. Just like every single country in the world. They all were blindsided. And China was already in hazmat gear, they probably had their vaccine already prepped. And I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that virus really was released on purpose, and here's why. We're funding that Wuhan lab. Some sort of joint venture between our good buddy Fauci, which that's already been proven. They just subpoenaed all of his laptop and several emails. He's been funding that lab since 2014, and he's been going through nonprofit organizations to do it.
Now, if you would like to follow the money, I invite you to tune in the Food Chain Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, and you can follow the money.
Ray, I got a whole bunch of calls. We got your answer.
I'm going to put this last thing out. So what I'm saying is, we had a joint venture with them doing this research. They got the bat virus in their hand, and there's no question in my mind. This is typical China. They got the vaccine. They got the virus in their hand. It's weaponized, ready to go. They look around. Now's the time. They set everything up to protect themselves, didn't tell the World Health Organization, or either that or paid them off to keep quiet for a couple months while this virus spread throughout the world. And that's exactly what happened. Meanwhile, when we found out about it, these guys are all in hazmat gear already.
Ray, we got your answer. Thanks for the call. Ben in Capitola, you're on KSCO. Thanks for calling China Uber Alice.
Thanks. My hypothesis about the reason why COVID was released was because, basically, certain people, certain bad actors in this country wanted to get rid of Trump with a globalist mind state. And if you think in the context of, say, like since the end of World War II, with a globalist idealism or this kind of worldview was essentially promoted over the last 70 years or so until finally, and that's speaking very generally, of course, but then finally, somebody that got through the matrix They elected someone who clearly was not part of this globalist mind state, and that was a very threat to the establishment. And so I think that two things happened. One, there was a secret economic collapse in the West that really they didn't want to report. It was even worse than 2008. And it happened, and they needed some way to deal with it, and I think one way was to, well, create this pandemic in collusion with China, possibly agents within the CIA, came up with this plot, who knows. And then they worked with certain authorities in China to release this. They knew that Trump either would somehow mess it up. If Trump clamps down at the beginning and, made a big deal out of it, they could have spun it as, oh no, he's an authoritarian, he's attacking our civil liberties, we have to get rid of him. But what happened is what they probably predicted, that Trump would be a little skeptical of it, he'd maybe sit on his hands a little bit, maybe they'd feed him some information that perhaps, was true, but then they could then bait and switch.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about, Ben.
And you're right, Ben. It sure does seem to be well orchestrated.
Yeah.
It gets down to it.
However it comes about,
who's the conductor?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben.
We're running out of time here. I got to go. I want to.
Are we out of time?
We are. I'm going to go to the last commercial break, and then we're going to wrap our show up for today. Please hang on. We'll check in briefly with Amy before we leave right after this.
Satisfy your hunger with a fresh, prepared, twice-daily grab-and-go sushi you'll find waiting for you at Sushi Market Sprouts, 2 blocks from the beach at 300 7th Avenue in Santa Cruz. Fresh, delicious, and oh so good.
Hello, I'm Junko, and I look forward to serving you at the Sushi Market Sprouts.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hello, I'm Phil Kramer, Executive Director of Housing Matters. We partner with individuals and families to create pathways out of homelessness. Housing Matters is building permanent supportive housing to end chronic homelessness for 120 people in our community. Join Housing Matters and learn more about the project at www.buildingwithpurpose.org and on Facebook and Instagram. Again, that's www.buildingwithpurpose.org.
Do you have internet problems at your home or office? Etheric Networks Internet has been providing internet for over 12 years to the Central Coast. You do have an alternative. Etheric Networks is one of only a handful of internet service providers that signed the industry letter to the FCC supporting net neutrality and is dedicated to maintaining a secure, free, and open internet experience. Join the Etheric Network and experience our superior service. Our contracts are friendly and simple to understand, as opposed to the complexity you will find with the cable and phone companies. We offer predictable monthly pricing. We have local technical support that's available 7x24. Importantly, Etheric offers the same speed on upload as download. We offer a symmetric service. Traditional weakness of both phone and cable companies who often offer much slower uploads and downloads. Call 650-399-4200 or visit etheric.net online. That's ETHERIC.net. Don't forget to mention KSCO to receive your $239 discount on installation equipment. Happy surfing.
We have just a couple of moments left on China Uber Alice today. I want to go back to Amy because she started the program out with her story about her father. And you're going to move on from your father's story to another story, continuing the same series next week, right?
Yeah, continue, yes.
All right.
You know what? This is an incredible serial.
It is. It truly is.
It's not just a story. It's a serial of stories.
It's Amy's life.
Yeah.
It really is.
Not just that. I was when my friend, someone long lost a friend, that come back because they heard about it and then they want me to tell their story. It's like a multiply.
Even better.
Yeah. So never 1,019 probably not enough.
Just think of it, Amy. 1.5 billion stories.
Yes. Amy, we look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you again for such a great story and your participation in our program today. Michael Olson, thank you for sitting in for Nan. We very much appreciate it.
Well, so much fun.
And we appreciate you, the listening audience, for tuning into our program. This is China Uber Alice. This is KSCO Santa Cruz. Have a great, great 4th of July.